listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana, founders of the Life Coach Method. Each one of our uplifting and deep dive episodes is geared to help you tackle the things that hold you back from having the most magnificent life you deserve. Sit back, relax, and prepare to be coached.
Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Unpause Your Life. I am very excited today to introduce a guest to you. Her name is Rhonda Parker Taylor, and she's an American writer, which I always find fascinating. And she was born in Indiana in 1964. She is the youngest of 5 children. I don't know how she did that. I had one sister and couldn't do it. So there's 5 of them. So we're going to talk about that. And she has written Crossroads, which is a suspenseful masterpiece. It was released last year, and it was endorsed by J.J. Herbert and, of course, Mariel Hemingway. So we'll get into how that happened as well. She also has an extensive background in teaching and training and business as well. So please, without further ado, you know I hate long intros. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. And as we talk today, I really hope that as we engage with your audience, we're able to not only redefine self, but help everybody, including ourselves as we talk, embrace change and rediscover our sense of identity through whether it be through writing and journaling or reflection over our lives and what dimensions we are presently stuck in a rut.
So my first question, because my most intriguing thing to have you on was how you got endorsed by Mariel Hemingway. So let's open up with that. How did you get a book endorsed by a famous person? Because my audience is going to ask that.
Well, first thing is believing in yourself. Believe it or not, Crossroads, I had a traditional publisher that I had created a contract with, and in the end they backed out of it. So it's that novel sat on my desk for a few years because I was like, how do I go about doing this again? Can I go through that long process? And one day my sister said, you have to be willing to make yourself vulnerable. If you want to make your passions happen, you have to personally be invested not only in other people's goals, but yourself. And that was a huge breakthrough mentally for me because I was holding myself back. So I started doing all the research. If I go back and do the traditional publishing again, this is get the query letter. I started doing the query letters. Do I ever want to continue, just do a self-published? I knew because of my present workload that finding barcodes and figuring out how to do that would not work well for me because it would still sit on my desk. So I finally found a publisher, which is Mindster Media, that does what they call a blended matrix. They help you put the package together. They help you do the editing. They do all the things that the traditional publishers do, but then they also help you unravel the marketing aspect. For anybody that's ever written a novel out there, they know that every sale and every handshake you do is important, and it makes it's just like any other product out there. If you can't get your name out there, then you basically die on the vine as a product. So as I was discussing it with the marketing people, they're like, you really need to find someone that can believe in your book as much as you do. And I think that's the key, whether it's someone famous or whether it's someone that is in your community, or all of that is very important to the piece of writing. So I'm like, well, who would I go with? Like a Tori Spelling, or, because my novel's a suspense novel. And they said, no, you need to write a query letter to Mariel Hemingway. I said, why would she be interested? My name, is, I'm a small town girl that, this is their first novel. Why would an Academy winning author and actress be interested in Crossroads, a novel based out of Indianapolis? And they said, because everything about your book is about life balance. every one of your characters is out of balance. And the reason the suspense and tension is there is because either they have a mental health challenge, maybe, or because their life is out of balance and they're not taking care of themselves. So Meryl is all about that. She likes to find books for her book club that can challenge the reader to think beyond just the fiction or nonfiction text, and challenge themselves to embrace a general inspiration that makes people change and to start taking care of themselves. So I said, okay, I'll do it. What do I need to do? And they said, well, first write a query letter to her and send a copy of your novel. And at that point, I hadn't even gotten through the editing process, so I was petrified of doing that. And she said, no, she likes to see it that way, so she could see the raw abilities before anybody's touched it. So I sent the letter, and I'll tell you, it was the best thing I ever did.
So I,
Because,
I can
go
kind
ahead.
of speak to that as well. I've got, well, this will be my sixth book coming out next week, but mine are all nonfiction, but it's the exact same thing. So, for example, my I Married a Junkie, I had Matt Bradley of Deadliest Catch write the intro to that. And just by having somebody that's in the addiction and mental health space helped me launch the book. Now, very similar to you, writing that query letter can also be very daunting because you don't know if they're going to like your content. You don't know if you're going to get a rejection letter, or worse yet, ghosting. No
Right,
answer is a horrible answer. So
right.
let's talk about for a second how, when you wrote that letter and you were sort of scared to death to send an unedited raw copy of your book, how did you work yourself through that process mentally?
Well, the first thing I had to do is I had to realize that if I ever wanted my dreams, like I tell my clients in my consulting company, to come to fruition, I had to practice the same positivity, discipline, and focus that I require of them. And in doing that, I had to realize that my sister, even though sometimes sisters do know what they're talking about, she's the big, the older sister, and I didn't want to believe that I had fear of rejection. I had to identify it and realize, wait a minute, the worst thing that can happen is they can say no, or like you said, ghost me, and that's been happening, in multiple projects in our lives. So it's not going to hurt me to shoot my shot, and so I did it. And yes, in the writing industry, you may get ghosted sometimes, and there's a for every 10 letters you send, you will get a yes. And that's the whole beauty of the industry. And at the same time, it's the same, um, oh my goodness, how am I going to do it in the industry? Because you have to challenge yourself every day and surround yourself with positive people that push you outside of your comfort zone. So for me, it was a matter of practicing the positivity, realizing that the worst thing could happen was a no or a ghost, and stay focused and find the lessons in the process that I needed to learn to push me to that next level.
Now, what made you want to be a writer? This is a great question because a lot of people, when you're growing up, you say, oh, yeah, I want to be a writer. And then you sit down and the page is blank. And they say, okay,
Right.
well, maybe I don't want to be a writer. What made you say, this is what I'm going to do? This is how I'm going to do it? And then, even that, the niche of crime writing, what made you interested in that specific niche? Not say, um, like like the notebook kind of message. What made you specific to that?
Well, first I like to read. If you look at any of the pictures growing up, I always had a book in my hand. But nobody that knew me growing up or in my younger years would have said, oh, she's going to be a writer, because that was one of my struggles. So it's kind of like a perfect storm for me. Writing doesn't come easy for me. It requires lots of editing. I'm a storyteller at heart. And then I found through that development process that I also could do self discovery. Even though it's fiction, I can kind of work out some of my thoughts. So you ask about crime. I started doing a crime watch program through my church where I was assisting in a very high level crime community try to navigate and improve their environmental situation and social justice, and watched the actual different cases that were going through the legal system. And I thought that the whole crime part of it would be about the injustices of the legal system. But what I found as I was writing is I found a sense of identity in every single one of the characters. So where I thought it was only going to be about the legal system and the trial, I found that in each character I was placing a piece of something, either maybe that I've seen, witnessed something, in life, in every single one of the characters. So they kind of took over. And I found that it was not only a journey for me, but I was hoping that it would be a journey also for the reader, because I found that I wanted to develop these characters to be real like. And when we look at these characters, it doesn't matter whether it's someone that committed the crime, a juror, the prosecutors, or the defense. We empathize, and you feel their journey as they go through it. The defense attorney uh, believes that everybody has an opportunity and has a desire to help people get a fair trial, but yet he's failed at one point earlier in his life in doing that. So he's um, trying to reestablish himself. At the same time, the juror is a workaholic that wants to get out of it but can't. And she's wondering as she's there why her life is so empty. But, because she's out of balance, she realizes that she has to make changes. Meanwhile, things start happening to her because her life is out of balance, and makes it easier for her to be prey to and victimized because of that. So each character I found I was able to, it's almost like journaling. Even though I was creating them from as a fictional character, I could say, what is their mental health status? What have they been diagnosed with? What is their family history like? Just as if I were their doctor. And it really allowed me to create antidotes on how we navigate life, no matter what our history is.
So that's fascinating. So it's almost like you got to become the therapist, the counselor, the coach, the parent, the career counselor, everything on each character as you're creating the person. Now, how much of your character's personality came from like a living person or somebody you met? Did you blend different people, or were they truly just popping up in your head as you went?
Uh, they are popping up as I'm creating it, but at the same time, I think that each of the characters has a piece of what most of us have inside of us. So even, let's say, for instance, Billy Knuckles, he's a co-defendant in a crime against a 15-year-old girl. And in that, you see the humanity in it. He got in the car with a person he knew all his life. And during that evening of partying, the other young man killed the girl.
Oh,
And
wow.
his whole life had changed in it. How many times have we gotten into a car we don't know the people very well?
Mm-hmm.
And their actions. How many years? So in each one of the characters, I'm hoping that we start realizing that we have to take care of selves as much as we care for other people and care of what they think of us. And many times we don't do that. And I think that that's why Meryl really liked the book. And when she released the YouTube video, it's called Meryl Hemingway Praises Rhonda Parker Taylor's Crossroads. One of the very last things she says is she had to do her own self-discovery during the novel and realize that everybody at some point in life has a crossroads where they have to decide. And she said, even chocolate has an expiration date. And when you think of how that one line kind of sums up the whole novel, and that is, when are we going to make the changes that we need to make to bring us to not only our most authentic self, but help us define ourselves and explore all the dimensions of our life, not just one or two.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's fascinating. Now, how many novels have you written to date?
So this is the debut. Crossroads is the debut novel. There's 4 more coming. But what I've done in each case, so Crossroads has a workbook. So let's say you read the book and you identify with the characters, or maybe you realize that, hey, I may be a little bit out of balance. I have it should be out by Christmas, a Journey to Life Balance, which takes the characters in Crossroads and it uses them as a case study to help you navigate and do this workbook approach to exploring the 13 dimensions of your life to see if you're balanced and see if you're developing all of those dimensions in a place that makes you fulfilled and authentic to self.
Wow, that's a lot. So what's your plan? What do you have on the works? What's next?
So then the second fiction novel takes, each one of the characters has their own novel dedicated to their issues or their problems in life, because we all have them, right? And all of them are fiction, suspense. And so the second one is about a young lady that's in the first one that's a very minor character, but it follows her through her self-discovery of why she continually becomes a victim and what has she learned in life that has made her basically a personal punching bag for many. And it goes through her life, and then there will be a second workbook that's how to prevent your loved ones from being victims.
Wow. So you've got a lot on the docket. That's awesome. Now,
I I wouldn't
how
have it any other way. How about you?
I like to be busy. I like to keep myself as busy as possible. Now, tell me about your consulting. What do you do consulting wise?
So my consulting company is a career and personal development organization. We do everything from helping you redefine your life and life changes, and that could be from doing the writing for a business plan. If you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, it can be helping you revamp your resume to where it's ready for today's market, because the market has changed so drastically. And it comes from my own changes that needed to happen in my life. You introduced me in the academic world as academically a researcher, and I've been doing that for years. And then I also was a teacher at the college level, and I had to make life changes. I had gone through some losses in my life, and I realized that, I had to start taking care of self. Some of the same things that I talk to my clients about. Sometimes you have to take a step back and realize that, when you're taking care of self, you have to face your fears and set your own specific goals. So we go through some of those exercises to help people make a plan that's sustainable for them for the next season of their life.
That's awesome. And how do the listeners find you and find your books? I'm assuming you're all over Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, especially in the Midwest. You can even find them in the stores, and then or you can get the paperback or the ebook through Amazon or BAM. And my website is Rhonda Parker Taylor. Rhonda's with an H.com, and all my social medias follow the same. And I love connecting with readers and hearing their thoughts, their accomplishments, and also, how they can take advantage of some of the lessons learned in my writing.
And we'll put all of those links up with everything as well on the web pages and on our social media, so that if you want to connect with Rhonda, you can reach out, and you can also find her on Amazon, which should be pretty easy. If you type it in, everybody has Amazon Prime, and it'll arrive to your doorstep or in your Kindle pretty quickly.
Yes, it will. And I really appreciate being able to talk to everybody. And I really hope that all the listeners out there realizes that when you take the advantages of opportunities and become prepared for those opportunities in advance, you can be as successful as you want to be. Or you can hold yourself back like I did for a couple of years, and always just sit there and think you'd like to do it. But you know what? If it's meant to be, it's up to you.
Awesome. That is great advice. If it's meant to be, it's up to you. And I will end on that note. So Rhonda, thank you for coming on. And once again, this is an episode of Unpause Your Life, where we talk about overcoming hurdles and challenges to become the best version of yourself. Until next time, guys, this is Dr. Callie Estes.
Thank you for listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana. Head over to www.thelifecoachmethod.com to learn more about coaching yourself and how to become a master coach.